So in honor of Women's Day, I thought we would do sort of like hip opening, because that's always good for us, and heart opening stuff. So those of you who are live, go ahead and mute yourself if you're not already. I would suggest blocks today. If you had 2 sets of blocks, that would be amazing for just this first thing that we're going to do. But of course, as always, you don't need them. They just will help facilitate a couple of things that we're going to do today. So the first thing I want to do is set you up doing a heart opening kind of thing. So you have a couple of options. You can put the blocks on their kind of just normal, most stable, lower level, and you want them to go down your back like so, okay? And your feet can be flat on the floor like I have them. They can be extended, or you can butterfly them, which is why if you had a second set of blocks, you could put the blocks here because that supports your legs. Some people find that more comfortable. If you want your head to drop all the way to the floor, you can do that. That's a bit more dramatic. If this is like super uncomfortable and isn't going to work for you, I grabbed a couch cushion, and this makes it a little bit more gentle. If you're real fancy and you have your own yoga bolster at home, that would be the perfect thing to use. So if you do like this, you can see it just kind of softens it a little bit. But what this is going to do is open up your shoulders, open up that rib cage. You can just have your arms down by your side. If you'd rather have them on your body, you can. And this leg option, like I said, is completely your choice. If it's more comfortable like this is basically a supported fish, okay? So some version of one of those. And we're going to just lie here for a moment to start the practice. So you can close your eyes and begin focusing on your breath. Inhaling through your nose, exhaling through your nose. As you inhale, really feeling the ribs expand, opening up that whole sort of chest, heart chakra, solar plexus chakra, throat chakra area. As you exhale, letting go, letting the knees drop towards the floor, letting the shoulders drop and the hands drop. So you're releasing the shoulders. None of this should be painful. It should actually feel quite good. You know, you'll be stretching, but if you're uncomfortable, then adjust. You don't want to be hurting. This should feel good and really relaxing. So go ahead and just lie here for a few moments, inhaling and exhaling. If it's been a while since you've practiced, that's okay, but be gentle with yourself. And try to allow that breath to stabilize, so each inhale is about the same length of time. Each exhale is about the same length of time. Beginning to regulate the breath, which regulates the heart rate, the metabolism, all the body systems. Actively letting go as you exhale. Trying to let go of any physical tension, as well as any thoughts, any stresses that you don't need right now. And if you'd like to set an intention for your practice, you can do that, giving yourself something to focus on. If you'd like to dedicate your practice, I'm dedicating mine today to all of the women in the world on International Women's Day. And so to come out of this, you just want to go ahead and bring your knees to one side and roll over. Depending on how high you are, you might roll all the way to the mat or off of it, and then just push yourself up. Bring yourself to a seated position slowly, and just move these things out of the way. So if you have a cushion or a bolster, that can go away. Keep your blocks handy because we will use those again. And then go ahead and come to a seated position, coming to that same butterfly that you might have been on the floor when you were lying down. So bring the soles of your feet together. Sitting up nice and tall. You can use the arms if you'd like to gently press those knees open, hips open. Really important to sit tall. So if you find yourself slumped or slouching, that's when it's really good to sit on top of a cushion, because that's going to help elevate your spine. Above all else, we really always want that spine to be long and tall, so we're opening up through there. If we're doing heart open, the last thing we want to do is collapse in on our heart, right? Inhale and exhale. Now we'll roll forward, so just releasing down, letting the head drop forward. Now rounding that spine over. Inhaling into the back body. So a moment ago, our chest and the front of our body was opening up, and now we're stretching through the back. Taking some nice inhales and exhales here. And then bringing yourself up, opening those legs out, toes towards the ceiling. If you're sitting on a cushion, you can stay sitting on the cushion. Sit up nice and tall, same thing we were just doing. And we're gonna do some lateral bends with some movement, so dynamic. So extending those legs out. This is a sort of very ballet-esque move. We're gonna bend over to one side, lateral bend to one side. The arms go, one goes one direction, one goes the other. Inhale through center, exhale to the other direction. And we're going to do that a few times with the breath. Inhale to center, exhale over. Inhale up through center, exhale over. And if you're moving faster or slower than me, don't worry about it. Just because it's ballet doesn't mean we're going to be coordinated. If you want to turn your gaze towards the ceiling, you can do that. But really keep that chest facing forward, so we're not rounding down. It's just a lateral move side to side. Breath and movement. Stretching that spine to the side. Remember, our spine moves in 4 directions. Forwards and backwards, and then it goes to either side and it twists. And coming one more time, making sure you even that out. Finishing on the opposite side from where you started, and coming back up through center. And now we're going to hinge forward. So hinging from the hips, bringing the chest towards the floor, hands to the mat. If you are lacking in your flexibility here, you can bring your forearms to the block. Again, what's important is that we stay long and tall. So I'd rather you stay elevated, hinging from those hips, feeling that stretch here, rather than collapsing and dropping into it this way. As you get more flexible, those arms can come out, hands can come on the mat. Notice what your toes are doing. Are they rolling in or out? Can you bring them towards the ceiling? And just take a few nice deep breaths here. I just wanted to do a little of this sort of static stretching before we move into our flow. We're going to do a sun salutation-based flow with some standing postures today. And I do plan to finish with an inversion. Inhale, exhale. Good. And bring yourself up. Bringing those legs together, toes towards the ceiling, still sitting up tall, modifying here, bending the knees if you need to, otherwise big inhalation as you extend up, and then again, hinging from the hips, leading with the chest, releasing the arms, releasing the head, and just releasing all the way over. Take a few breaths into that back body, notice the difference here from the other forward folds, notice where you feel it. If you want, grabbing hold of calves, ankles, feet, toes, wherever you can reach. Increasing that stretch a little bit. And then rolling yourself up. All right, coming over onto our hands and knees, just a couple of cow-cats to get that spine moving. So hands under shoulders, knees under hips, and just moving through cow-cat, just warming up that spine at your own pace. Inhaling as you work through cow, exhaling as you work through cat. And it's important here to work this part of the spine so that when you go into your cobras or your upward facing dog, you don't hurt your back. We want to make sure that our back can do this movement now. And then hopefully it's safer when you do your sun salutation. On your last exhale into your cat, go ahead and press up, hold that for a couple of breaths, really press with the hands, Gaze goes towards the belly button. Really push that back away. And then from here, we'll transition to down dog. So curl your toes under, pushing those hips towards the sky. Your hands can stay right where they are. And jog through, bending one knee, bending the other knee, stretching out those hamstrings. Pause here. So you press one heel towards the earth, the other heel is lifting up, and you feel that stretch all the way up that extended leg. Couple of breaths there on that side, whichever side you're doing first is fine. And then switch, press the opposite heel down, lift the other heel up. Feeling that stretch all the way through the second leg. And then press both heels into the mat. So with these down dogs, always making sure we're rolling our shoulders away from the ears. We don't want to put pressure in our rotator cuffs here. We want to build strength, not cause injury always. Driving the heels towards the mat. So if your leg's flexible, your heels will be lifted off. That's fine, but just make sure you're not lifting onto your toes. Push the heels like magnets are drawing them towards the earth. And then walk those feet forward, hanging over for a moment in your forward fold. Just letting go, letting the back release. Letting the weight of the head bring you down. Bend the knees, let the hips drop, and go ahead and roll yourself up really slowly here since we're upside down. Don't want to give yourself a head rush. Come all the way up to the top. Deep inhalation, arms extend up overhead. Keep those shoulders pulling down away from the ears so they're not hunching by the ears, shoulders down and away, lifting up onto our toes, practicing our balance for a moment. And then as your heels lower to the earth, the hands come down. Bring your hands to your heart center. So I'm going to keep these blocks up at the top of my mat, and there might be a couple of opportunities where we can use them. So like I said, we're going to do some Surya Namaskar, some sun salutations, and we'll just do some standing postures as we move through them. This won't be as intense as sometimes our sun salutations are, but we'll keep moving, get the heart rate going, get you nice and warm, especially those of you who are doing this in a cold climate. So take a moment focusing on your posture. Those hands are at your solar plexus. Shoulders are rolling down and back, lifting up nice and tall. Neutral spine, right? So the natural curve of our spine, but without tucking our pelvis or pushing it forward or backwards. Chin towards chest, so it's not sticking out here like a turtle, especially if you're sitting at your desk all day long. That tends to happen. And as always, trying to match your breath to your movement, not worrying so much about my speed. Next time you inhale, extending those arms up overhead, little bit of a back bend here if you wish. As you exhale, hinging forward, releasing all the way down. As you inhale, halfway lift, hands slide about to the shins, not to the knees, flat back. Exhale, hands melt to the mat, bend the knees, step that right foot back, runner's lunge, followed by the left. So these first two, I'll do a modified chaturanga. Your option if you want to do the full chaturanga. I'm going to drop down to knees in my modified plank and lower all the way down to the mat, chest, chin, hips. Rising up to our cobra, shoulders down, elbows back. Curl the toes under, pushing back as you exhale, downward facing dog. Taking a couple of breaths here. Extend the right leg straight up, not super high, just right up behind you. Should feel a deeper stretch in the hamstring when you do this. Holding for a couple of breaths. Swing forward, hug that knee to your chest. Can you just pause out here for a moment? Challenge option, lifting that knee towards the chest, just pausing, and then stepping that foot all the way forward to your runner's lunge. Bring the left foot forward, forward fold, inhale, flat back lift, Ardha Uttanasana, exhale, release. Inhale, rising all the way up, little bit of a back bend, and then exhale, Samastiti, position one. Same thing, other side. Inhale, exhale, fold forward. Inhale, flat back, halfway up. Exhale, release. This time the left foot steps back, followed by the right. I'm going to do the modification again this round. Next time I'll do the full one. Lowering all the way down, chest, chin, hips, melt to the mat. Elbows hug the rib cage as you rise up to your cobra. Curling the toes under, pressing back, downward facing dog. When you press back, those hands stay right where they are. If you need to adjust, walk your feet a little bit towards your hands. Always rolling shoulders away from the ears to protect the shoulders. Inhale, kick that left foot up behind. Again, trying not to tilt over, just lifting it straight up. We'll tilt over next time round. And then step that left foot all the way forward. Oops, I forgot the hover. You want hover with that left knee lifted. And then step it forward, followed by the right, forward fold. Inhale, flat back, halfway up. Exhale, release. Inhale, rise all the way up. Exhale, hands to heart center. We're going to add one little crescent lunge this time around. So inhale to extend up. Exhale, hinge forward like you're reaching out all the way in front of you before you fold all the way down. Inhale, flat back, halfway up. Exhale, release. Hands find the mat. Right foot steps down, drop the right knee onto the mat. As you inhale, open up to that crescent lunge. So you're driving forward, opening the hip flexor, gazing towards the ceiling, chest opens up, shoulders down and away from the ears. Exhale, hands find the mat. Step the left foot back, plank. Holding plank for a few moments. So you can always do the modification. On these ones, I will do the full version, which is chaturanga, which is going to be the hover above the mat and coming to up dog. But up dog can be harder on the low back, so don't feel like you need to do it. Always feel free to modify and do cobra if up dog is not appropriate for you. Bending the elbows, lowering all the way if you want to do cobra. Otherwise, if you're doing chaturanga, you're going to hover above the mat, flip the feet, pressing up to that upward facing dog, and then press back, downward facing dog. This time extending the right leg up overhead. Now bending that right knee, dropping the foot towards the left. So you're stacking right foot on right hip over left. Think about lifting the right knee. That's what's going to get that hip nice and open. Good, bringing that leg back to center. We're going to swing the leg to the outside edge of the mat. So right foot's going to swing out to the outer edge of the mat. Knee over ankle. We're going to come to our lizard lunge. You can release the back foot down onto the mat. Grab your block. Coming up onto your elbows, I've got the block in the highest position here. So block is by the foot, knee is over ankle. We're leaning into this. If you want, you can lower the block down, or you could leave it off altogether and come all the way down, forearms on the mat. And then if you want, you have the option of lifting up onto that back foot. That doesn't change much what's happening in the front, it just adds a challenge for the back leg. Do it what? You could do it on your hands, or you could do it on a pillow, a couch cushion, a book, anything that elevates you. If you do it on your hands, you tend to get less of a stretch in the hip, for whatever reason. It's better to be on forearms, because it puts the elbow against the thigh, and then you can press open there. It's not the most comfortable of postures. Exactly. You're feeling on the right inner thigh, hip, and if you have the left leg lifted, you're feeling it in that left hamstring. If you had a block, go ahead and remove it. Press up onto your hands. We're going to kick straight up to a three-legged downward facing dog. So that right foot's going to come all the way up. And then it's going to swing all the way forward. Release the back knee onto the mat. Same thing we did as we step back, crescent lunge. So we hinge forward, opening that chest towards the sky, gaze towards the sky. And then hands find the mat so the left foot can step forward, forward fold. Inhale, flat back lift. Exhale, release. Inhale, rising all the way up. And exhale, hands coming to heart center. So same series on the other side. Inhale, extending up. Exhale, hinging forward. Inhale, flat back lift. Exhale, release. Hands find the mat. Left foot stepping back, releasing down, crescent lunge. Inhale, rising up. Gaze towards the ceiling, pressing forward. You feel that in the left hip flexor. Exhale, hands towards the mat. Pressing up, coming to plank. Holding plank for a moment. Belly button pulling towards the spine, long line from the head, shoulders, hips to the heels. Inhale and exhale. Again, as always, dropping to knees as you need. Lowering down, your option all the way to the mat or hovering in your chaturanga, and then your option to come up to cobra or more advanced upward facing dog. Try not to drop into the hips. Press back, downward facing dog. Lifting the left leg up as high as you can, bending the left knee, dropping that left foot towards the right side. So you're stacking left hip on right. Think about lifting the left knee towards the ceiling. That's going to open up. This is again the left hip flexor where you're feeling the stretch. Bring the leg back to center, lizard lunge on this side. So the left foot swings all the way forward to the outer edge of the mat. First, check that you've got knee over ankle. Release the back knee onto the mat. If this left foot's really far back, you can just scooch it forward. Grab a block, a book, a cushion, anything to elevate you. Bring your forearms onto it. And just finding your right level. If that right level is all the way onto the mat, that's fine, or whatever level you've got. And then your option is to lift up that right foot. So now your left shoulder and arm is sort of pressing against your left inner thigh. Driving away the right heel. And just taking some nice deep breaths. Notice if you're rolling onto that pinky edge of the foot, try to keep the foot planted so all four corners of the foot are there, because what you do is you create traction between that foot that's rooted in the floor and your hip joint, which isn't going anywhere. And then you're pressing against that leg, and that's what's going to help create that stretch. If your foot rolls over, then you get less of a stretch. Trying to breathe into it. And if you were using a block, moving it out of the way, pressing up onto your hands. Three-legged down dog. So kick that left foot all the way up and back, and then swing it all the way forward to your lunge, releasing that right knee down. Inhale, rising up, crescent lunge. Exhale, hands find the mat, step that right foot all the way forward, forward fold. Inhale, flat back lift. Exhale, release. Inhale, rising all the way up. And exhale, hands to heart center. This time we'll go into pigeon pose. So we're going to inhale, exhale, hinge forward. Inhale, flat back lift. Exhale, release, hands find the mat. Right foot steps back, releasing that knee down into the mat, and then coming into our half split. So again, if you have blocks or something to elevate, sometimes that's helpful if you have less flexibility. We're hinging back, flexing that left foot comes straight, and then we're sitting back towards our hips, and you can just go ahead and let the head drop down, or I should say sitting back towards your heel. Your hips are pushing back. If you have less flexibility, you can be up here on your block, and that's going to help support you. You can even be all the way up, depending on how that is on your knee. And just take a couple of breaths. It's a pretty deep stretch on that extended left hamstring. We have agreement from over here. Hinging forward, planting those hands down, stepping that left foot back. Plank position. And let's go ahead and go over into our side plank. I'm going to give you a hip opening option here. So I'm going to go to left side first. It doesn't really matter. Left hand on the mat, left foot on the mat. Remember, you can drop the left knee if you want to modify. You can stack the feet, more challenging, or have one foot in the front of the other, slightly easier. Neither is easier. And you can extend that arm. If you want a balance challenge and a hip opening challenge, you can come to tree pose. So you can bend the top leg, bringing it to your inner thigh. Completely optional, but if you wanted to try it, you may. Good, transitioning back to your plank position, lowering down, chaturanga. Inhale up to cobra or up dog, exhale pressing back, downward facing dog. I've got another challenge here for you, but this gets to both the hips and the heart. Extending the right leg up high overhead, three-legged down dog. Bending that knee, dropping it to the other side just like we did. So right knee bends, drop the right foot towards the left side. Option to stay here, those of you who want to bring that foot all the way down to the mat, flipping your dog, coming to wild thing. So the right knee is bent, left leg is straight, pressing the hips up, reaching the right arm overhead. If you chose to flip yourself all the way back over, extending that right leg high overhead. Now we're going to hinge forward, bringing the right knee to the chest, and now that right foot across the body coming to your pigeon pose. Those of you who don't want to do pigeon pose here, come onto your back, crossing your right ankle over your left thigh in a figure four position. So press that left leg behind you, really extending it. And we don't want to roll and sit on our glute. You want to keep that glute elevated, hips are forward. So you can wedge a pillow or a book or a block under if that's problematic. Keeping the hips forward, chest forward, shoulders forward, gaze forward. Really trying to get the body down onto the mat. Working that right foot out as far in front of you as you can. And then it's your option to stay here, or if you want, you could fold forward. Some people like to make a pillow with their hands, put their head in their hands. It doesn't matter. I feel like I get more of a stretch actually when I'm lifted here rather than down. It's up to you. If it's more relaxing down, hang out there. Take a few breaths. So this is working the right hip. Great hip opener. Take some breaths into it. If you folded forward, go ahead and press yourself back up. Press into your hands, lift that chest, keep working here. Just going to give you an option to work on your left quadricep, stretching that. Also, this is really good for the low back. Bending that left knee, drawing it towards your body. And then of course, anybody who's working towards royal pigeon, you can take this deeper by reaching back with the left hand. Deeper, going into the elbow. And if you're working on your balance, picking up the right hand. Different options depending on where you are. But everyone should be feeling a quadricep stretch. Even right here, you're getting a nice quad stretch. Coming on out of that, releasing that back foot down, pressing into the hands, we're going to kick straight up to a three-legged downward facing dog. And then swing that right foot all the way forward and simply step forward with the left, nothing fancy. Forward fold. Inhale, flat back lift. Exhale, release. Inhale, rising all the way up. And exhale, hands coming to heart center. Same one on the other side. Inhale, extending up. Exhale, hinging forward. Inhale, flat back lift. Exhale, release, hands find the mat. This time stepping the left foot back, dropping down to that knee. Inhale, rising up. Ooh, I lied, splits. Keeping the hands on the mat, hinging back, right foot up. So same option if you want to elevate, either all the way up or on blocks, pillow, or books. Or if the hands come all the way to the mat, you can do that. And then you can bend forward. Working that hamstring. Taking some breaths. If it feels tight or if this is challenging, don't worry about it. This is called half splits. Half splits is hard. It's half of full splits, which is super hard. Hinging forward, hands come forward. Stepping back, plank position. Plank on the other side. So if you did left hand with me last time, go ahead and do right hand. If you did right hand, go to left. You'll know as soon as you get into it if you did that one last time. Bringing that hand to the middle of the mat, transitioning over to your side plank. Again, your option to drop that right knee. Again, option to stack the feet or have one foot in front of the other. Option to extend the arm. And if you want to do something fun and challenging, you can come to your Vrksasana here. Bringing that right foot to the thigh. Just make sure you're not pushing on your knee here, okay? If your foot is here on your ankle, that's totally fine. We just don't want foot on knee, especially in this position. Skip it if the only place your foot wants to land is on the knee. And then coming back to our plank or our modified plank, chaturanga, cobra or up dog, pressing back, down dog. Driving the heels towards the mat. Extending the left leg up, bending the left knee, dropping that left foot towards the opposite side. And then, just like on the other side, if you want, that left foot comes all the way to the mat. Right leg extends, left knee is bent, coming up into our wild thing. Flipping that back over. Left leg swings up, swings forward, pigeon on this side. So that left foot comes across. Right leg reaching behind, hips are forward, chest is forward. So the full expression of this posture, this foot is actually at a 90-degree angle from the knee. As you can see, I'm nowhere near that. But we just don't want the foot under the body because that's not going to really give us the same effect. So just wiggle that foot as much up here as your flexibility allows and as your body allows. Keep those hips forward. Try not to roll and sit on the left butt cheek. And then again, your option if you want to take it down to the mat. Take a few breaths to relax. Some people find this posture super comfortable, others not so much. If it's painful, if it bothers your knee, roll onto your back, coming to figure four, supine pigeon. So your left ankle would come to your right thigh, and you draw that right thigh in towards your body. Take some deep breaths here. Notice if it feels different on this side. On the left hip. And then if you melt it forward, go ahead and press yourself back up, coming to our elevated pigeon. Same options here, right? So you can bend that right knee. This actually is really good to do up against a wall as well. It's great on the back. If you feel good here and you can reach it and you want, grab that right foot. Feel free to stay there. If you want to work towards your full royal pigeon, that foot goes into the elbow. And if you have the balance and want to lift up that other foot, the full version of this, of course, is grabbing my toe. As you can see, I'm miles from my toe. So, you know, we all have what we're working with. Looks great on that quadricep. Really good for the knee. Keeping the muscles loose. Go ahead and releasing out of that wherever you are. Pushing up and back straight to your three-legged downward facing dog. And then swinging the left foot all the way forward, followed by the right, forward fold. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, release. Inhale, rising all the way up. Exhale, hands to heart center. On the next series, I'm going to give you the option to jump back, power yoga style. You can, of course, step one foot back followed by the other, just like normal. You decide what's better for you. Coming to chair pose, Utkatasana for Surya Namaskar B. So we're sitting down, pushing those hips back, knees over ankles. Chest is still lifted, right? I'm not bent over at the hips. As much as possible, lifting the chest, shoulders pulling away from the ears. If this is too much on the shoulders, the back, or anything else, the hands can come to heart center is a great modification for this. Make sure your weight is in your heels so you can wiggle your toes. Belly button pulling towards the spine so we're not arching our back. Should be a long, flat back. Inhale, exhale. Next time you exhale, fold that over, straighten the legs. Inhale, flat back lift. Exhale, release. So here's where you can step right foot followed by left, or plant the hands and hop back with 2 feet. Because we are strong, powerful women and men, we're going to do 5 push-ups here. keep my hands right under the shoulders and do tricep push-ups. So that means my elbows are gonna bend right by my ribs. Exhale, press back up. All right, that was your demo. 5 more. Lower down, exhale, press back up. If you find that you're snaking down, if you're not staying in one rigid plank, go ahead and drop to knees and do these modified. These are really hard with the elbows by the side, so don't forget about that. I think that was 5. And then next time, lower down, chaturanga, or all the way to the mat, flipping the feet, rising up to cobra or up dog. Exhale, pressing back, downward facing dog. Taking a few breaths here, pressing into the palms, pressing the heels into the mat. Make sure the head is loose. Shake your head no. Nod your head yes. And let's let out a powerful female lioness breath. Inhaling through the nose. Sticking out the tongue, opening the mouth, and exhaling. One more time, inhaling. Lioness breath out. And release. Coming to our standing posture. So extend the right leg high overhead, swing it forward, planted down, warrior 1. Pivoting the left foot, rising up. Remember, hands can come to heart center or they can extend. It does not matter, it's your decision. What's important is keeping the hips forward, chest forward, gaze forward. I'm just going to flip around because I'm going to end up with my back to you. And I'd rather not have my back to you. All right. So you want that front knee bent, but the knee is over ankle. It's never tracking out over toes. And it doesn't have to be a super deep bend. For me, it's not, because as soon as I start bending deep, my hips start doing this. So I keep the hips forward, which means a little bit less of a bend in the knee. Inhale, exhale. Bring the hands behind the back. We're going to come to humble warrior, clasping the hands together. This opens up the chest and shoulders. Can you lift your gaze towards the ceiling? Heart opener. And now we're going to bend forward, bowing towards Mother Earth, reaching the arms overhead. And our humble warrior. Pulling the hands back to come all the way back up. Hands either back to heart center or extending back up overhead. Shoulders down away from the ears. Transition to Virabhadrasana 2. So we're simply opening up that back hip, rotating the left hip around, arms drop down, gaze comes out over the front hand. I always wiggle that back foot back a little bit. Deep bend in the front knee, gazing out. Make sure you're not tracking out over your toes. So wiggle the front foot forward if you need to, so that you can look down and you can see your toes. You can bend as deeply as you want, but no more than 90 degrees here. Reversing your warrior, left hand comes behind the back, right palm flips up, lifting up, gazing towards the ceiling, breathing into the right rib cage. Keep the deep bend in the front knee, don't lose that bend. Side angle bend, right arm coming across the thigh, keeping shoulders stacked, hips stacked, left arm extending up. So here's your option here. You can keep that arm on your thigh, or you could grab a block and the hand could come down to the block, or you could come all the way down to the mat. But notice my shoulders are still, or my chest rather, is still facing you. My shoulders are stacked, my hips are stacked. If you have to rotate around to reach the floor, that's not so great. You want to stay open. So hand can either come to something to elevate you up, like so, or you just keep that arm across the thigh, like so. And press yourself back up, Virabhadrasana 2. Straightening the front leg, moving the back foot a little bit closer to the front, or the front closer to the back for our triangle. We're going to hinge forward, reaching, reaching, reaching. I want you to pause here, working the abs. So notice, chest, abdomen still facing forward, gazing towards the ceiling. And go ahead, let that right arm go. And then bring the left arm up. So you're probably not touching the floor, and I want it hanging, not pressing on the shin, hurting your knee. Inhale, exhale. This is working your core. Pressing up, reversing that. So the left hand once again wraps behind the back, right palm comes up, but now the legs are straight as you reverse up triangle. Coming back up, now pivoting to the long edge of your mat, toes out, we're going to come to a goddess pose. Of course, we couldn't do a woman power practice without goddess. Let's bring those arms to cactus and then sit down and back, pushing the hips back, lifting up through the chest. Once again, knees should be tracking out over the ankles and then towards the middle toes. So for me, my knees always want to collapse in. I want to push those hips out, keep the chest lifted, and you're sitting back like you're sitting in a chair. Push the hips back. You're tracking forward. There you go. And now lift up through the chest. Inhale, exhale. Trying to have the weight on all four corners of the feet. Can you sit down a little bit more? Can you push those knees out a little bit more, opening through the hips? 3, 2, 1. Rising up. Pivoting the feet forward, forward fold. Letting the head go. Letting everything go. Grabbing hold of your calves, feet, ankles, toes, wherever you wish. Letting the elbows flare out. Pulling your body downward. Crown of the head melting towards the mat. Bending the knees and rolling yourself all the way back up. Pivoting towards the front of the mat, simply stepping the left foot forward. We're going to come to our balance pose. Balancing on your right foot, using a wall if you want, on the right hand. We're going to bend the left knee, catching the ankle in our hand. Notice my knee is not in front of or behind my other knee. It's right in line with it. Moving out from the wall so I can take my hand off of it. Raise that right arm up if you've come off the wall. Bring the gaze forward, looking at a point in front of you, not at the floor. If you look at the floor, guess what you're likely to do? Fall onto the floor. If you want to take this to the next level and move towards dancer, you start to lift that leg behind you, kicking into your hand. Don't worry so much about bending forward. There might be a little bit of a tilt forward, but more it's about kicking behind you, opening the hip flexor, keeping the chest and shoulder open. You can even lift the gaze up towards the ceiling. Taking a few breaths. If you want to form a mudra with your front fingers, you can touch the thumb to one of your fingers. Each one has a different meaning, but we shan't get into that, mostly because I don't remember. If you've kicked back up into dancer, go ahead and bring yourself back to vertical. Lower the arm down. Don't mind the person dancing on the frame. Lower your foot down into the mat. Good. Deep inhale. Exhale, forward fold, grabbing hold of ankles, calves, or feet, pulling yourself forward. And then coming into chair, bending the knees, sitting back in the hips, arms extend, or of course, coming to heart center. I'm just going to go the other end of the mat, so once again, my back is not to you when we do the standing postures. Can you sit real low? Push those hips back. See where my knees are. We don't want to be here. When I lean forward, what I feel is tightness in my calves, and I start to feel a little bit in my knees, and I don't feel my glutes and my thighs working. When I sit back here, my calves feel pretty soft because they're pretty normal right now. I really feel the muscles in the back of my thighs, tops of my thighs, and my glutes working. And I stop feeling it in my knees, which is important. Forward fold. Inhale, flat back lift. Forward fold, hands by the mat, stepping left foot followed by right, or hopping back to plank. I'm going to separate my hands this time to a wider push-up position. Hands turning slightly inwards. Again, feel free to drop down to your knees. Otherwise, from toes, 5 push-ups. Exhale to press back up, not going past a 90-degree bend of those elbows. Don't want you to hurt your shoulders. 2 and 1. Bring the hands right under the shoulders again for your chaturanga. up to your cobra or your up dog, pressing back to down dog. This notion of touching your chest to the floor in push-ups is really not good for your shoulders, so I encourage you not to do it. All right, same series, other side. Luckily I didn't do anything too wildly complicated, so hopefully I remember. Left leg swings up, swings forward, Virabhadrasana, warrior one on this side. Pivoting that right foot, rising up, hands to heart center, or arms extend. Chest lifted, gaze forward, hips forward, chest forward. As deep a bend as you want in that front knee. Powerful, confidence building, balance building pose. The warrior poses are really good for focus, for concentration, for boosting confidence, improving balance, and working on the hips. So we simply open up that right hip. The gaze stays pointing forward as the body pivots around, still looking at that same focal point in front, squeezing the shoulder blades together for Virabhadrasana 2, warrior 2. Checking that the knee is over the ankle, not tracking forward over the toes. Inhale, exhale. Ooh, I've already forgotten something. I forgot humble warrior. We're gonna go back and do our humble warrior. Come back to Virabhadrasana 1 and bring the hands behind the back. Pulling the hands together, opening up chest and shoulder towards the sky. And now forward fold into our humble warrior. Pulling the arms back to rise back up, swinging their arms up, and let's go right back to our warrior 2. There we go, caught up. Reversing the warrior, right hand behind the back, left palm flips up. Bring that hand up, bring the gaze with it, but keeping the bend in that front knee. Side angle bend, the left arm comes across the thigh, right arm shoots up towards the sky. And then, as always, your options. So notice where your chest and shoulders and torso are right now. Keep that orientation, keep the nice deep bend in the front knee. If you feel inclined to move that hand down to a block, a pillow, a floor, maybe a small child, whatever you got below you that can provide some support. Please don't crush anything living.
And then big.
Yeah, there you go. That would work. Inhale, exhale. When you're ready, press back up, Virabhadrasana 2. Straightening the front leg, wiggling the left foot towards, or the back foot towards the front, or the front foot towards the back. Just a narrower stance for Trikonasana. We're going to hinge forward, hinge forward, hinge forward as much as you can. Pause. Release that left arm down, and bring the right arm up. Some people might be on the floor at this point, but most are not, and I don't want this. I want you to build strong, supportive, sexy, amazing abs. Inhale, exhale. Next time you inhale, pressing up, reversing that. So the right arm goes behind the back, left arm flips up, but that left leg is straight this time as we reverse our triangle. Good, rising up, pivoting towards the long edge of your mat again. Toes out, goddess pose with movement. So we're going to inhale down, and we're going to exhale up. So hopefully you found where you needed to be before. Hips push back each time. I'm going to just turn profile, because what I want you to think about doing is dropping straight down and straight up, as opposed to what I often see is the knees collapsing forward. Chest stays lifted, hips press out, exhale to squeeze up. If it bothers your knees, make them smaller bends, and also really think about pushing those hips back. Usually it hurts your knees when you're tracking out over your toes. You should have very little weight in your toes. You can really wiggle them here. I'm going to give you an option here for a little bit of oblique work. Challenge option is going to be to sit low in your goddess. Slightly modified, easier option is going to be to stay high. You decide what you want to do. So either sit down in your goddess or stay lifted. And we're going to tilt side to side. Elbow towards the thigh and back up. Tilting to the other side and back up. So it's like a little side crunch. If you're sitting in your goddess, just make sure you're protecting your knees. Make sure you're sitting back in those hips. And make sure that chest is really tall and lifted. We shouldn't be doing this from a bent over position. Exhale as you bend, so you have more room to bend. Less air in your lungs. Ooh, that's not good. My computer's my battery's low, which is crazy. It started out with full battery. Finish on the opposite side from where you started. And how many that was, doesn't matter. And if you're down, press up. Pivot the feet forward, hinge forward, release, and fold over. Again, grabbing hold of ankles, toes, feet, whatever works. Pulling the crown of the head towards the mat. Releasing that, bending the knees, roll all the way up. Pivoting towards the top of the mat and simply stepping forward. Balancing on your left foot this time, maybe holding the wall or something if you need. Bending that right knee, catching your foot or your ankle. Make sure you're standing nice and tall, your knees are meeting, they're side by side. And if you want to take the hand off of whatever you're balancing on, extend the left arm up. Feel free to stay right here. If you want to move towards dancer, you're kicking the right foot behind, pressing against the hand. Maybe leaning forward a teeny bit. Gaze is still forward, you haven't lost sight of your drishti. And maybe you're making a mudra, touching your thumb to one of your fingers. If you're really fancy, you can look at it. I'm afraid I'll fall over if I do that. Take some deep breaths. So everything we've been doing, working on that hip flexor, is working here. We're still working that shoulder, reaching back with that right hand. Ooh, almost fell over. Go ahead and rise back up. Place that foot down. Deep inhale, extend up. Exhale, release forward. Bending the knees to grab hold of your toes. Straightening your knees as much as you can, which might be not at all, and pulling yourself downwards. You don't have to have your legs straight here. Bend the knees so you can reach the toes. Because now your hands are grabbing hold of your toes and you can push off against your feet, working towards stretching those hamstrings even if they don't get straight. Releasing the feet, bend the knees, hands to the mat. Step either foot back or hop back to plank. Final plank of the night. Drop down to knees, sit back on your heels, releasing down in child's pose. All right, go ahead and rise back up. I promised you an inversion, so we're going to end with inversion. Coming down to the mat, option to grab a block for this as well, or a pillow or anything else. So I'm going to give you options. You can lift the hips up into a shoulder bridge, and this is made easier with a block under you. Lower level, middle, this direction, or all the way up if you want a deeper back bend. Option 2 is to bring that block across your low back and bring those legs straight up overhead. So those are your more modified, less intense inversions. If you want to bring those legs overhead into plow, halasana, supported or unsupported, you may. And if you want to come up to shoulder stand, again supported or unsupported. If you want to work in headstand, you can do that. If you've got any neck issues or back issues, avoid shoulder stand if it bothers them. Same thing with plow. Do one of the modifications. And once those legs are up, if you're in plow or if you are in legs up from the block, you of course have the option of opening those legs, getting a stretch of your inner thigh. You could work with one leg down in plow and one leg up. If you do that, of course, make sure you do the other side. Gives you a bit of a hamstring stretch. Don't advise you to move your head from side to side if you're in either plow or in shoulder stand. You can also use your hands to support yourself in that supported bridge. So I just transitioned from my shoulder stand to the supported bridge with my hands pushing the hips up, but that's definitely a deeper back bend, so it just depends on your flexibility. And then those of you who are in, you went to headstand, go ahead and come out of headstand. If you're in shoulder stand, lower those legs down behind you into plow. If you're feeling like it, you could drop your knees to the mat in your two-knee posture. And then everybody who's in plow, go ahead and roll yourself with control down to the mat. Those of you who have a block under you, go ahead and move it out from under you. And everybody come down, hugging your knees into your chest. So we started with a modified fish. We'll end with the regular fish. So extend your legs below you. Bring your hands palms down onto the mat and go ahead and sit on them. So your hands are under your thighs, your wrists or forearms somewhere under your glutes. Pull the shoulder blades together. You can stay right here. If you want to take this deeper, you're going to come up onto forearms and you're going to release your head back, bringing the crown of the head to the mat. If your head doesn't touch the mat, put a block back there and let your head drop onto a block or a pillow. You don't want your head like this dangling in space. It's not good for your neck. So you decide, take a few breaths here. Really great heart and chest opener. Going from shoulder stand or plow to this stimulates the thyroid, which is really good for your metabolism. You can also come to butterfly feet here if that feels good. Bring the soles of your feet together. Taking a couple of breaths. And then slowly, gently releasing down out of that. Stretching your arms up overhead, stretching your legs down below. Drawing the knees towards one another, hugging the knees to the chest. And just a quick twist, dropping the knees to one side, cactusing the arms again. Looking over the opposite shoulder for just about 3 breaths. And then switching sides, knees go to the other side. Looking over the opposite shoulder for again 3 to 5 breaths. And then coming back to center. Once again, extending the legs down low, bringing the palms down by your side, palms face up. For short relaxation, because I managed to kill all of the time. Just giving yourself a few breaths here. And then drawing the knees to the chest one last time, giving yourself a hug to thank yourself for your practice, rocking side to massage that low back. And then your option, if you roll onto your side and push yourself up to sit, or if you want to rock front to back and come up to sit that way, it doesn't matter. Either way, find yourself in a cross-legged position, facing front. Bring the hands to heart center, thumbs once again finding that solar plexus, sitting nice and tall. taking a moment to thank yourself for practicing tonight. I thank you for sharing your energy with me. Reconnecting with that original intention or whatever you were dedicating this practice to. The light in me acknowledges the light in you. Om Shanti Om. Namaste.